we're getting live updates from inside the courtroom, and it's actually getting quite testy in there, where the judge has just raised his voice for the first time as he is pressing Trump's legal team about what is a pretty extraordinary allegation that they are making against the district attorney's office.
That's right. They have accused the district attorney's office of professional misconduct, prosecutorial misconduct. They've even suggested that they should be sanctioned. And the judge said, look, that's a, quote, incredibly serious, unbelievably serious accusation. Not only are you accusing the prosecutor's office of misconduct, but you're also trying to make me, the judge, complicit in it. And he pressed the Trump legal team to come up with some case law, some specifics to support this allegation. Because the reason we're here today for this hearing and not for the first day of the trial is that federal prosecutors handed over hundreds of thousands, 100,000 documents. Now, that was not the Manhattan district attorney that did that. Those are federal prosecutors. So the judge here is pressing the Trump attorneys on why you can accuse the Manhattan District Attorney's Office of prosecutorial misconduct because the Justice Department didn't hand something over. Now, the Trump attorneys argue that the District Attorney's Office should have pushed for these documents themselves. They should have asked for these specific materials, and they're having a pretty intense exchange now with the judge. Now, again, this is the first time the judge has really raised his voice, saying the fact that they don't even have any case law to support this very serious accusation is, quote, really disconcerting. So our colleagues tell us that the judge, Judge Juan Merchan, he has been pretty level throughout the hearing, but he's gotten a lot more animated. And it's interesting because this shows that he is not going to tolerate just these throwaway accusations that someone is corrupt, right, or that they're engaging in misconduct. And he is holding their feet to the fire, asking for actual proof, support, case law for this accusation. So this is significant and maybe a preview of how the judge will handle this trial. And
when Trump's legal team walked into this, Kristen, I mean, they clearly don't seem to actually think they're going to get it dismissed, even though they are asking for that and a delay if they don't get it dismissed. What was their tactic kind of going into this today when it came to these documents? Because right now they haven't been able to tell the judge a specific number of documents that they believe they'll have to review before this case can proceed.
What they wanted to do here is to try and explain that every single document that was turned over was relevant in some way, because the more documents that are relevant of this 100,000, the longer that this trial will be delayed, because then the legal team will have to actually be able to go through that. So really the strategy here is how can we draw this out as long as possible? As we've talked about, part of that is also, can we push this up close to the November election? They believe the closer this gets to November, the more difficult it's going to be to have a trial at that time, the more politically explosive it's going to be at that time. The other thing I wanted to point out here is one of the things that our colleagues were saying was what Trump was doing in the courtroom. A lot of leaning back in his chair, folding his arms, and looking at Todd Blanche. Todd Blanche has really become Donald Trump's favorite lawyer of the lawyers that he has. He believes that he's the fighter. He believes that he's out there. But this is interesting to see Todd Blanche having essentially a very tense moment with this judge. Donald Trump really wants to see his lawyers pushing the envelope, pushing for sanctions, pushing his people to call for this.
Well, and clearly what we are getting from witnessing this right now, listening to what questions the judge is asking, is he is very skeptical of Trump's allegations, Trump's legal team's allegations against the district attorney's office. And essentially what he seems to be asking is it the district attorney, Alvin Bragg's, obligation to get the Southern District of New York, to get them to turn over these documents?
And that's the heart of the disagreement here, because the Trump attorneys are saying, look, this was the district attorney's job. They should have gone to federal prosecutors and asked for all of this. But the judge is pushing back on that, saying, no, it's actually not, he calls them the people, because they represent the people of Manhattan, the people's job to do this. And I think this is important because this is showing that the judge, not only is he upset at the fact that they made this accusation and cannot support it, he's really showing how he's going to handle a criminal trial here. He's not going to allow the Trump team to get away with making accusations they cannot support with facts or case law. And that is significant because, as we've reported so many times, this is part of defending the former president. You are not only playing for either judge or jury, you're also playing for your client and playing to your client often. And that can be difficult for attorneys when they're in a courtroom, particularly in front of a judge who here is going to make you show your work.
And they got one delay here, but it's not clear that they're going to get this further delayed today.
Yeah, that's what he's trying. The judge is trying to nail down, okay, exactly how much evidence do we have? that is relevant, because that'll determine how much time do you need to review it. So that's really at the core of what they're arguing about right now. Right now, the case is adjourned until mid-April. It's unclear if the case will start in mid-April, if they'll get a little bit more time, if they'll do 30 days from March 25th. The math is not exactly clear where he's going to land. But really at the heart of this is this question of why did you just get these documents now? And of these, how many are really relevant? How many do you need to review to be prepared to defend your client?
And the reason this matters is because if someone's at home, wondering why do I care if it's the district attorney's obligation or the Southern District Attorney's to turn over these documents about Michael Cohen, it matters if this does get delayed even just by a few weeks, because it could clash with other trials being set, with the documents case being set, with the federal election interference case once we hear from the Supreme Court. If this case goes forward later, it could push those cases later, which would be a win in the Trump legal team's eyes.
Well, and I'll tell you that they thought this was a huge win. I mean, just this delay till April 15th. They were fully 100% planning to start their trial today. They believed they were going to. They were planning a campaign schedule around it. They still are telling me that they're going to probably likely start the campaign for just Wednesdays and Saturdays, the days that they're not in court, because eventually this trial is going to start. This was huge for them. They were happy about it. Now you're saying they're kind of pushing the envelope, and it sounds like the judge believes they're pushing the envelope here. But this was good for them, and they want to continue to do that because the whole goal is to push all those other trials past the election.
All right, Kristen Holmes, Paula Reed. Jim, obviously what is clear and what we are getting out of the courtroom right now is that this judge is deeply skeptical about the claims being made by the Trump legal team. The big question, of course, is whether or not that affects when he sets that trial date, and if he does so by the time they leave this courtroom today.
Yeah, absolutely, Caitlin. Let's continue to talk about this. Here with me now, CNN chief legal analyst Laura Coates, CNN chief domestic correspondent Phil Mattingly, and CNN senior legal analyst and former federal prosecutor Ellie Honig. I mean, Laura, just to dive into what they were talking about a few moments ago, the judge kind of going after the defense team a few moments ago, saying you are literally accusing the Manhattan DA's office and the people assigned to this case of prosecutorial misconduct and of trying to make me complicit in it. And you don't have a single cite to support that position. That is not a good sign for the defense.
Good for this judge for standing up to this issue. It is a huge accusation that every prosecutor takes very seriously, because it's not just you standing up there. Remember, we're very interchangeable as prosecutors. It is on behalf of the jurisdiction itself. You are accusing the jurisdiction and the people of that jurisdiction of committing some sort of misconduct against this person. If you do not have a way to back it up, you should not say it. And this is a distinction between the court of public opinion and a court of law, where a judge is going to say, well, what do you have to support this? It's not a tweet. It's not a Truth Social. It is a courtroom where you're telling me that they have withheld documents from you intentionally with an eye towards taking away your due process and your fair trial. If you don't have that, you cannot say it. And so this judge is already telling us that they intend to ensure that this will be done by the book. You've already gotten one delay, but a delay based on nonsensical rhetoric or hyperbole or simply a lie is not going to cut it, nor should it.
Yeah, Ellie, it's one thing for Trump to say whatever he wants. His lawyers can't do that.
Yeah, that's
in front of a judge.
Absolutely right. A lawyer is an officer of the court. You can't just spout whatever you want unless you back it up. This is, as Laura said, this is not the political campaign trail where you just say whatever you want, fire off whatever you want, and it sort of plays itself out. You have to back up whatever you say here. And the key question that the judge seems to be focusing on is, was this some sort of intentional withholding of documents, or was it inadvertent? And I will tell you that this type of problem where prosecutors realize sort of late in the game, whoops, we have all these extra documents we should turn over. It's not great, but it happens quite frequently because you're responsible as a prosecutor for everything in your possession. Now, that's been expanded over the years to include, for example, police officers, FBI agents who you may be working with. And I think the question this judge is probing is, does it include holding the state prosecutors responsible for what the feds had across the street? And it seems like he's leaning towards an answer of no.
And does that mean that the judge says, okay, well, just to cover our bases here, we're going to push this trial back a little bit longer? Is that the potential outcome here?
It's conceivable, but if you're able to review the documents in time, in a timely manner, and they do not include things that are going to delay the prosecution's case or the defense's ability to actually defend themselves against the accusations, you would not give a gratuitous delay simply because you are alleging misconduct. It's got to be tied to something for a reason, and every prosecutor wants to ensure that the next case they prosecute will also be given the same credibility and integrity assigned as this one. And so this judge is not going to likely allow for simply a statement that is inaccurate or unsubstantiated to say, all right, well, you know what, because it could have happened, I'll indefinitely give you a delay.
You know what's interesting about that, particularly in this case, on this day, when he's also dealing with what Letitia James, the New York Attorney General, what he's facing with the effort to try and secure a bond, also in the wake of the E. Jean Carroll defamation case, which he's already secured a bond for, more than $90 million, which is, I think, hampering his liquidity a little bit right now, I would presume, is consequences, right? Yeah. It is a different ball game in the court of law, and I feel like we've been talking about this or around this over the course of the last several months because it hasn't actually been happening. We saw it play out in the defamation case. We saw it play out in the New York Attorney General's case where he lost that case when it came to fraud. When he's in a courtroom, the antics don't play, the lies can't stand up, and there are consequences for trying to play that game. And I think while this is certainly a more micro scale, you're seeing it on maybe a less hyperbolic way that we see on Truth Social, this is why this moment is different than perhaps what we've seen over the course of the last 10 or 11 months. Yes, politically, he has found a way to benefit from something that no politician should ever be able to benefit from. And there's no question about that. He is steamrolled to the Republican nomination. But it becomes different when he ends up in court, when he's dealing with a judge, when his lawyers have to either defend his statements or try and play off his statements in a legal setting where they simply cannot. And that changes the game a little bit.